So we're going to be talking about how to install a new chip out block on your Hinge side and the tools and the hardware that's required to do the job. So you're going to need a tape measure, your Allen set, your new chip out blocks with the spacers located in your main tag as well, and then the hardware that they should be labeled. And you'll have two different sizes, one for one spacer, so it's going to be one length for socket cap, and then for two spacers it's going to be a longer socket cap screw. So first you want to start by setting the tension in your chip out blocks. So normally when you receive a brand new set of chip outs from Kval, you'll notice that they're not preset. Normally you'll receive something to this right here, they're completely closed, no tension to them, or you'll receive another one that's completely open, just like this one right here. So what you're looking for is to set the right tension so they function properly when being clamped between the door and the jamb. So for that, we have this one here that's set to 1 inch and 5/16 gap, or 1 and 5/16 overall from outside to outside diameter. One thing that we should cover is the use of the chip out block spacers. So for your first installation, when you first have your chip out block brand new, you're going to install it without a spacer. And something to keep in mind is that's going to require one specific length of bolt, so your socket cap sticks out on the other side sufficiently without binding on the other side when you first install it in your jamb clamp. For your second installation, for your chip out block, it's going to require one spacer and a secondary longer length of a socket cap for it to be sufficient to stick out from the other side, and as well to prevent it from being too long and binding up on the back side. Third installation and final is going to be your second spacer, and that should be the last of the life of that chip out block before replacing it with a brand new one. And that also as well will require a third length of a socket cap, so both of the spacers and the socket cap sticks out on the opposite side sufficiently without binding or catching the backside of the jamb swing assembly. After installing the final second spacer, then you're going to need a brand new chip out block and repeat the same process all over again. So now we're ready to install the chip out block in its location. So you're going to grab your chip out block. So one note to keep in mind is if you use the wrong length on the socket caps, if they're too long, it's going to actually stick out further on the back side, and it's going to keep this plate with the spring attached to it from the back side. It's going to prevent it from actually doing its function, and it's going to get stuck. So you want to make sure to use the right socket cap length. So now we're going to grab the chip out block, and we're going to grab two socket caps. We're going to insert them in the through hole that's located on the front of the chip out. And then we're going to grab our Allen, a 532 Allen. We're going to push those all the way to the back. And then we're going to bring down the plate and then install the chip out. So after installation of the chip out, you just want to double check and make sure it should be free to go up and down with no resistance at all. After installing your chip out blocks for a Hinge side and selecting and labeling the button on the screen on the manual section, then you're ready to go ahead and run your chip out sequence to burn out your chip out blocks. So the first thing you want to do is locate an 8/0 door with an 8/0 jamb so you can run all 4 pockets at the same time when burning out the chip out blocks to save some time. And after doing so, you want to call in your door into your machine and clamp it up. After clamping your 8/0 door, the next thing you're going to do is make sure your chip out blocks are actually set properly for your burnout sequence. So if you look, you have a gap in the middle, meaning that they're set to or after you run your chip out block to the proper setting. But for a chip out, when you're about to burn it, you want to make sure they're fully compressed initially. So to do so, on the top side, the socket cap is located, and you're going to screw that in all the way in until the block is fully compressed. And you got to make sure all 4 of them are the same before you run them. After confirming your blocks are set to the proper setting for the burnout chip block sequence, the next thing you're going to do is go underneath your hinge head. You're going to locate the router, the bolt that's bottomed out, and you're going to bring that 6 flats out. So you're going to grab your 1/2 inch open end wrench, you're going to crack that loose. And then you're going to do 6 flats out. After bringing out your bottom out bolt underneath your hinge head 6 flats out, now you're ready to grab your jam and clamp it up to start your chip out sequence. After installing the new chip out blocks with the proper hardware and spacer, you're going to locate the burnout chip out button on the screen. And to do so, you're going to hit the manual screen button, and then that should take you into the screen where there's a section labeled Hinge with the burnout chip out button. Normally it will be off or disabled in red. So to go ahead and you're going to hit that button and it should turn green. At this point, you're ready to run a specific sequence that's only for the chip outs, that's going to switch your router sequence from a 3.5 to a chip out sequence. This is not the same. From that point, you want to have a door and a jam ready and clamp it up, and then you're going to walk into your start sequence button and just run it as a normal door and jam cutting sequence. After clamping your 8/0 jam, now you're ready to start your burnout sequence. So now that's your first pass. As you look, the next thing will be bringing that bolt that you turn out 6 flats, and now you're going to go in 3 flats to do a second pass. After making your first pass, the next thing you're going to do is going to bring that bottom knot bolt that you brought out 6 flats out, you're going to bring it back in 3 flats. After making your adjustment, next you're going to run a secondary pass. After making your second pass, the last thing you're going to do is make your final adjustment, and that is to re-bottom out the bolt that you brought out 6 flats out. Now it should be all the way bottomed out. Now we're going to run our final pass. After running your third pass, the next thing will be is resetting your chip out blocks with a 1/16 gap between in the middle. Now after unclamping our door and removing our jamb, we're gonna reclamp our door again. And then we're gonna manually bring our heads down from the screen on your manual section. You're gonna locate the hinge section and you're gonna hit the down button. And then after clamping up your door and bringing your heads down, now you're gonna make sure you have a 1/16 gap between, or 1 inch and 5/16 from the outside, whatever each way is easier to measure out. So you're gonna loosen up the socket cap that's located on the top. And then we'll take our tape and measure 1 and 5/16. Now you're gonna make sure that you do the same thing to the rest of the chip-out blocks. After making your adjustments for the rest of the chip-out blocks, the next thing you wanna do is run a regular 3.5 sequence cut pocket. So to do so, make sure you turn off your burn chip-out block and disable it. And then you're ready to run another cutting sequence.